What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine high because I had to buy something that feels something, and today we're back at it with another review. For today's review, we are taking a look at McFarlane's Toys Helldivers 2, the B-01 Tactical Armor, better known as just the default Helldivers armor. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first McFarlane Toys figure that I am reviewing on the channel, which feels kind of wrong seeing how mainstream McFarlane Toys is. You think this would be something that I would have done by now, but unfortunately, I have tried to review McFarlane Toys figures in the past, but it's just due to scheduling and just wanting to push out certain, reviews over others. It never seemed to work out, but fortunately, it is now McFarlane Toys' time to shine on the channel, and it is with the Helldivers franchise, which is a franchise that I never thought would be touching this channel. Not that I'm complaining, this is such a unique instance, and I couldn't pass down the opportunity to review such a unique franchise for the channel. So that's what's happening today, and I think it is awesome that we are finally getting some Helldivers 2 action figures. I feel like this is something that should have been already done. I feel like a toy company would have tried to, hop on this opportunity already, but better late than never, I guess. So when it comes to acquiring this figure, I would start off by saying the McFarlane Toys website, but they took down that listing. But there is an article regarding the figure and its details and everything that you'd want to know. Watch this video still, but anything you'd want to know before purchasing, it would probably be in that article. So I'll leave a link in the description for that. But as for actually acquiring the figure, if you realize during or after the video, you do want to pick it up for yourself. Starting off for $49.97, we have the Walmart website, and then for $59.99, we have Entertainment Earth and the Big Bad Toy Store. And with all that said, I'm pretty excited to take a look at this figure, so let's go open up this bad boy. And as for the packaging, it is our standard McFarlane Elite Edition packaging, just all Helldivers up. We can see the big Elite Edition logo on the side here. On the other side, we have a nice portrait of a Helldiver with the title on the bottom. And on the back, we just have the Helldivers poster art, which is cool. And then that's really about it for the packaging. Going back to the front, we can see that everything that should be there is there. So let's open up this bad boy. So right out of the packaging, I can confirm that this is a pretty solid looking figure, but getting into the specifics, starting off with sculpt work with the armor, whether it's the helmet, the shoulder pads, the forearms, the legs, there is something there. There's just tons of detail, whether it's straps or buttons or buckles or the stratagem screen. Obviously, there's the armor paneling, the layers, the line work. That's all nice and dandy. As for the undersuit or the clothing under the armor, they did sculpt in wrinkles and folds to make it look like cloth, which is always appreciated. And when we get to the waist area with the belt and the mini skirt, the comma, whatever you want to call it, obviously that it's sculpted to look like cloth with folds and wrinkles as well. But when it comes to the belt accessories such as the pouches, they're sculpted to look like cloth pouches, which is nice. And obviously the belt buckle with the Helldiver skull is just the cherry on top. It's just nice to see that no matter where you look on this figure, there's something there to appreciate. I will never complain about a figure being full of detail and feeling like nothing was left behind. So when it comes to the paintwork, first glances, not looking too deep into it, it looks great. Helldivers are mostly made up of black and yellow, and then obviously there's the silver sprinkled in, and then the white for the Helldiver skulls that are found throughout the armor, and that's all fine and dandy. But under closer inspection, I did notice some things are missing, or at least missing their color, such as the logos on the pouches, some buttons around the straps or buckles on the armor throughout the whole figure. It's just there's small minute things that were looked over and just not touched up upon. I mean, the sculpt work is great and those details are sculpted there, but for the most part they're all just painted over in black, making those areas look a lot flatter than they actually are. And another thing that I noticed that was kind of strange is if you look at the front of the chest piece, it's got some scruff, some battle damage, wear and tear, whatever word you want to use. And that's great and all. I'm an advocate for that, especially for, the military soldier figures that I review on this channel. I'm always for that. But if you look at armor anywhere else on this figure, whether it's the helmet, the shoulders, forearms, legs, or even the back plate on him, there's nothing, no wear and tear, no grit, nothing like that. And that's just a really weird inconsistency. So I'd say like the overall consensus is that like McFarlane got down, I want to say like 85, 90 if I feel like being nice % 100% of the detail painted onto this figure. Like obviously they got like the major components that you would, see on a Helldiver, especially if you're just taking a quick glance. But if you're like me and you start putting this figure under a microscope, you start noticing those tinier details, and it is kind of a bummer that we couldn't get a fully pimped out, fully painted Helldiver figure, but it is passable for the most part. It is, it does its job. They got the major components that you would see on a Helldiver, but it's a shame they couldn't get everything. And what is arguably probably the most important component to this figure's visuals is the cape, the iconic Helldivers cape. I think it looks great. It's black with a white Helldivers logo going across it. Obviously that is the default cape for the Helldivers, and again, visually it looks great. Very happy that it's cloth goods. It even has a wire so you can articulate it and move it however you want for action poses or toyography or whatever you want to do with it. But very happy with how it looks, no complaints whatsoever, and it truly feels like that this year is the year for cloth goods and just mainstream figures. Kicking off articulation in the head area, we can rotate the head 360 degrees, and then we can bring the head up and down an alright amount. And then when it comes to swaying the head side to side, there isn't that much range. Like you can move it, but not a bunch. And then moving over to the arms, we can rotate them up and over 360 degrees. And then when it comes to bringing the arms up and down, you can get an alright amount out of that. And the same could be said about the range when you flip the arms 180 degrees to bring them open and closed. And then in the shoulder, there is a butterfly joint to further extend the arms. And then for the elbow, we get a really nice double jointed elbow bend here, which obviously allows us to go past the 90-degree mark, which is always nice. And as for the hands, we can rotate them 360 degrees and bend the wrist however we please. And then moving down to the torso, we can rotate it 360 degrees. And then we can also get some pretty good range going back and forth. And the same could be said about the range when swaying the torso side to side. And then moving down to the legs, unfortunately, we can't get a full 360 degree rotation due to the mini skirt on the Helldiver, but with the range given, we're still allowed to achieve a variety of different poses for our figure, so it isn't the end of the world, I guess. And then as for the splittage, we get some pretty decent range. And then moving down to the knees, we get a really nice double jointed knee bend, which allows us to surpass that 90-degree mark, which is always welcome. And then finally for the boot, we can rotate it 360 degrees and move the ankle however we please, and the toe on the boot can also be moved as well to allow for further posing and balancing of the figure. And then finally we have the cape, and because the wire's in it, we're allowed to articulate it and move it however we want. So if we want to display as if our Helldiver was in the wind or in a neutral state, we can do so. There's not a whole lot of limitations on the wire as long as you don't fucking manhandle it and try to rip it. And I have to say, McFarlane deciding to go with a cloth goods cape and giving us wires so we can manipulate it however we want is just such a W. I think that this is the year of cloth goods for figures. So kicking off the segment with the little goodies included, starting off with the Elite Edition points. With this figure, you get 300 Elite Edition points, which I think it's only this figure where you get 300, whereas the other Helldiver figures will be coming with 50 points. And then for our second card, we do get the data file, which just goes over what, the character slash figure is all about. And in this case, it's for our Helldiver, obviously. And me personally, I just kind of throw these in my drawer with the rest of my other McFarlane data files. But there's definitely someone out there that appreciates these way more than I do. And then we get our standard McFarlane Toys stand, which is just a black plate with a peg in it for the peg hole on the bottom of the foot, obviously. And it's got the Helldivers logo because this is a Helldivers figure. And obviously, I'm all for figures coming with stands. It's something that I'm a huge advocate for, and I love that McFarlane Toys does this. And then getting into the more interactive accessories, starting off, we have 6 swappable hands for this figure. We have 2 trigger finger hands, 1 open hand, 1 pointer finger, 1 closed fist, and 1 radical hand. And I mean, obviously, the trigger finger hands are necessary because there are guns that come with this figure, but I feel like these hands all fit the character very well and were a great selection by McFarlane. And now getting into the weapons, starting off with the classic, the Liberator, the default rifle in the game. And as far as visual presentation goes, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. I mean, at first glance, at least for the sculpt work, it looks pretty good. good. You have all your major components like the magazine and its texture with the ribbed, waffle texture going on, the ejection port, the safety, the tactical rails, the underbarrel laser, the pad on the stock, the optic. It's all there, looks good, but there's obviously some things missing, like the charging handle up front, or how the sling mount is just, all mold that's not, see-through, or, it has a through hole like in the game, or all the bits of the gun up front or where the barrel should be, it's kind of flat on the toy. So it seems like that McFarlane's goal was just to get the major components of the Liberator, and I would say, they skimped out on all the smaller details, but again, like they have the safety select on there, and then they do have like the rails, and each individual rail is sculpted. So it seems like they really just picked and choose what they wanted to put on here because, like, again, the charging handle is missing, and that's a smaller component of the gun. But it is what it is. In a perfect world, we would have a 100% accurate toy that is, completely representative of what we see in game, but we don't. And then as for the paintwork, it's pretty underwhelming compared to what we see in game. In game, the Liberator has a variety of grays and silvers with the black, and it's got that yellow, title on it with the stripe. And on here, we just have a gun that's mostly black with some silver, and then white for the Helldiver skull. I think it's weird just how like almost complete this is. Like, it has the color variation in the paintwork, it has almost all the components sculpted on, but it doesn't. Like, I don't know if there was like budget or deadline issues, but it's almost there, but it's not. And I mean, it's passable for someone who isn't looking super in depth like I am, but again, in a perfect world, we'd have a 100% accurate Liberator McFarlane accessory. And then moving on to our second weapon, which is the MG43 machine gun. And fortunately for the sculpt work, it seems like everything that should be there is there. The only big thing that I do notice is the gap between the barrel and the handle on the in-game model is filled in on the toy, and they probably did that because it's easier to produce, but also because the barrel would probably be stupid easy to break if that gap was there. But as for everything else, it looks good. The bullets on the belt are sculpted, the various panels and line work found on the box for the belt is there. Everything that should be there is there, unlike the Liberator, so at least this is sculpted very well. What is not done very well though is the paint work. I wish the bullets were painted, and then there's some yellow on the box as well, which they left out. They just kind of kept it black and gray, so it's kind of dull. I mean, I'm probably being a little too harsh because the majority of the weapon is just gray. There's only two signs of color, which are the bullets and that yellow found on the box, so forgive me if I'm being harsh. Because besides those two little things with the paintwork, I do think McFarlane did a great job at giving us this weapon. And then moving to our third weapon, we do have the Torture. As far as sculpt work goes, it's pretty good. They got down all the grooves and textures and line work that we see on the in-game model. This weapon is very groove heavy. As far as the barrel goes, we can see that on the in-game model, there's kind of the cage around the barrel, or a heat shield around the barrel, whereas on the toy, it's just a block of plastic, probably because it was easier to manufacture / print it that way, which honestly I don't blame them. I mean, it'd be nice if it was just a cage, but that would probably be a pain in the ass and very easy to break. As far as paintwork goes, this is probably the most accurate accessory to be painted yet. The majority of the components that we see on the in-game model are painted to their colors on the accessory, and also the little flame icon on the canister is missing. But out of all the guns we looked at so far, this has the most variety in its paint job, which is good. I think I would have been a little upset if this gun was just two colors. And then for our fourth weapon included, we have the railgun, which fortunately for McFarlane is just two colors. I mean, there's the blue on the lens for the optic, which wasn't painted, but as for everything else, the gun in game is just light gray and dark gray, and that is what we got for the paint job here. I had to just put that out there now. I do art sculpt work then paint work, but it was just kind of funny how on point this gun was compared to the other ones just by pure chance. At least when it comes to the paintwork, of course. But as for the sculpt work on this gun, it's pretty good. We got a bunch of little details like the canister that's in the stock, the ejection port in the middle. We even got a through hole on it, which I think this is the first gun that we've gotten where they actually didn't just fill a hole with just plastic, which is nice to see. All the different, flaps or rails or spines that go along the barrel of the gun. And obviously there's the grooves on the handle as well. Overall, overall, I think they did a great job with the visuals, seeing that the bar wasn't too high, at least for the paintwork. I mean, visually, there's a lot going on, and they did get a lot of it down, so good job, McFarlane. And then for our 5th weapon included, we do have the Senator. Now, there's a lot to unpack here for such a small package, because as far as sculpt work goes, I'm happy. They got the cylinder, they got the barrel, they got the under barrel accessory, the sights are on there, the hammer's on there, they even got the texture on the grip. That's great. As for the paintwork, wholly underwhelming. Obviously, as you can see, the toy is just painted all black, whereas in game, it's got a silver/gray body, the handle is black, and then it's got a nice faint yellowish stripe on it. And I would have just taken the black grip and the gray body, but come on guys, give us a little bit more, please. And for our first melee weapon, we have the saber. Now, as far as sculpt work goes, it's pretty good. We got the Helldiver skull with the lines that follow it on the blade. We have, the pommel. Every little thing that should be there is there, which is nice. And as far as the paintwork goes, silver blade, golden handle. The only thing the handle is missing is the bit of white that we see on the in-game model. But, the hand is going to be covering that, so we're not really going to be seeing that. But I always preach accuracy when it comes to figures and whatnot, so that would have been nice, but here we are. And yeah, overall pretty solid accessory. And for the second melee weapon but final weapon included, we do get the stun baton. And as far as visuals goes, the sculpt work is great. They got the texture in the handle, they got the coils at the top, and then all the tasers along the baton's rod. As far as paintwork, they got the major components with the silver and the black. The only thing missing is the copper color for the coils up top and the yellow button on the handle, but I'm not surprised, honestly. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video, pretty much where I go over my general thoughts and opinions, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, anything like that, really. And for this figure, typically I just go over what I don't like first and then what I do like, kind of keep it simple, cut and dry. But this figure, it's kind of a love-hate relationship, so I'm just gonna kind of ramble and hopefully it all makes sense. So the first thing is articulation. 2 issues, that's the word I'm gonna use, I have is the torso doesn't want to be propped up when you have him in a kneeling position, because I'm not gonna say he can't get into a kneeling position, because he can, but because of the mini skirt clashing with the legs, the trajectory of the torso is kind of weird, so he's like always leaning back and it just doesn't look right. And then the second thing, which is kind of 2 things, is I wish that you could rotate the forearms and the calves. That is something that we see in the Black series, and I really like it. It allows us for our figures to hold their weapons better, because you kind of gotta force the arms a little bit here to properly shoulder any of the weapons that are included. But don't get me wrong, the joints on this figure, all of them except for when you try to sway the head side to side, do articulate exactly how they should, and I'm happy with the range that we are given. I just wish we were given more range on this figure, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And then the big one, and that's visuals. Now, starting off with the figure, when it comes to this figure sculpt work, it's great. Everything feels included and not watered down. As far as the paintwork for the figure goes, they got the major components, the blacks, the yellows, the silvers, but there's, smaller details that they just chose not to paint, and it's kind of a bummer, because again, in a perfect world, we'd have a 100% accurate paint job on our Helldivers figure. It's just, they were so close. It was just a few minor things that they just decided to gloss over. As for the weapons, I don't think there's one weapon that is 100% accurate to their in-game appearance, whether it's a paint job that's not complete or the sculpt work. Something just is missing from each accessory, and sometimes both if you're looking at the Liberator. Like, I guess you can argue that the accessories do serve their purpose, and that's all they really need to do, but in a perfect world they would visually look exactly like how they do in game. Now, some of you may be thinking that I'm being too harsh, I'm nitpicking too much, it's not that deep, whatever you want to say. And my counter argument is this figure's $60. NECA figures come with the same amount of accessories and have, I would say, similar level of articulation that this figure has. And, those figures are $40 and they look way better. They're chock full of detail. Like, if you watch any of my old NECA NECA videos, my visual presentation segments were way longer than they needed to be because I would absolutely glaze the effort that NECA puts into the visual presentation of their figures. And not saying this figure doesn't look good, because it's a pretty alright looking figure, but you know, NECA, who obviously puts in way more effort than McFarlane, charges their figures for cheaper, and I can't justify the price of this figure. And the entire Helldivers wave, they all use the same accessories, so they're saving money on molds, especially because 3 out of the 4 figures in this wave also use the same mold. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why McFarlane was cutting corners, but it's very obvious they did, or at least they're just blatantly charging way too much for this figure, even if they never make another Helldivers figure and that these 4 are like limited releases. I can't justify $60 for what we're given. And I understand that this figure is probably going to be impossible to find, seeing that, you know, McFarlane took it down from their storefront. But as for the other 3, I don't know what their shelf life is going to look like, but I would definitely wait till they're on sale for like $40, if not less, obviously. And to contradict myself, because I'm really good at that, if you're a very casual collector, you know, very, you know, face value, you're not looking too deep into it. Oh, first of all, this is our only officially licensed Helldivers action figures, so if you do want officially licensed Helldivers action figures, this is the only line out there. Because despite me thinking that this figure can be greatly improved upon, the visuals are decent, the articulation's decent, and this figure does come with a bunch of accessories, which is obviously a major plus for a figure that is $60. That this figure does come with a lot of stuff. And I'm going to sound really out of touch here, and I apologize because I swear that I'm not. I'm a working man, I swear. But as someone who, you know, reviews figures, you know, and has to look at them in great detail, mostly because I'm really fixated on this hobby, but also having the privilege to spoil myself with figures like 1000 Toys, Figma, Joy Toy, obviously having a bunch of NECA figures, seeing Hasbro step up their game, seeing what McFarlane used to be able to do with visual presentation with the Halo line. I just want to see more from this figure, and I believe that McFarlane can, because there are some modern McFarlane figures that look really good, like the NCR Ranger from their Fallout line looks fucking stunning, and I feel like they could have done such a better job with this figure, even if it's a decent figure at best. But I think this is the longest turntable segment I've ever done, and you know, that's fine by me. I got all my thoughts and opinions out on this figure. And obviously, you're more than welcome to go down in the comment section below and bounce off anything I said, and I most likely will reply to y'all's comments because I clearly like talking about this stuff. And that was McFarlane Toys Helldivers 2, the B-01 Tactical Helldiver. And I want to know y'all's thoughts and opinions on this figure. If you have it, you know, like it, dislike it, tell me what you're thinking. Obviously, I'll reply to y'all's comments because I truly like talking about this stuff. And like I said in the intro of the video, at any point, if you want to pick up this figure for yourself, there will be links in the description so you can do so. And as always, a like and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. Don't worry about commenting if you don't want to. I get it. It's a lot of effort moving those fingers, and don't worry about the bell because we both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more content like this, I already have a bunch of nerdy stuff on the channel. I can't say Helldiver because this is my first Helldivers video on the channel, but if you like Halo, Star Wars, Alien, Predator, Alien vs Predator, or Warhammer, I have videos covering those franchises, so feel free to go check those out. And with all that said, please have a great day and stay hydrated. It's important.